So welcome to another episode of the Powercast today, and it's an absolute pleasure to have Ben Mudge onto the podcast. So if you guys don't know much about Ben, he, funnily enough, it looks very, very much like Thor himself, and having him also on video stream at the moment is very interesting because I can see this resemblance. I bet you get that quite a lot. Guy's got incredible physique, he's an incredible trainer, incredibly knowledgeable, and has a very interesting background, which we're going to delve into a little bit today. So thank you very much for coming on the show, Ben.
Thank you very much, mate. It's appreciate it.
So if anyone doesn't know who you are, Ben, do you want to give us a quick run through with some information about yourself and a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I am 30 years old as of last month, which is still hard to get my head around, to be honest. I'm from Belfast. Oh, mate, it's weird. I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland. I've been in the fitness industry for nearly 10 years now. My path to the fitness industry was a bit strange, as I'm sure a lot of people's are. I basically wanted to be a director. So I studied for 4 years in film, got a couple of jobs here in Northern Ireland, and thankfully the film industry and TV industry in Northern Ireland is pretty good. So I got working on a couple of projects, and then I got working on Game of Thrones, which was that was the big project back then. This is the first season, by the way, so no one really knew what size it was going to get to. But it was upon working on things like that I realized that I had to change careers completely due to the fact that I have cystic fibrosis. So for people who don't know what cystic fibrosis is, it's a genetic condition, so you can't catch it. And it comes from, obviously, both your parents having a CF gene. And the thing is about CF gene is it could be passed along your family for generations and no one actually gets the full copies, both copies of the CF genes. So, for instance, I have an older brother. When he was born, nothing. He got one copy of the genes from my parents. Then I was born, I got both copies, which gave me cystic fibrosis. And then my little sister was born and she got just one copy as well, so she didn't have CF. So CF is this kind of sneaky illness that can just pop out of nowhere. And CF, essentially, the way it kind of causes havoc in the body is that it affects the production of mucus within the body. So someone normal like yourself that doesn't have CF, the mucus within your body, which is essentially kind of like oil in a car, keeps everything running smoothly. Every process, every conversation the body has with each other, with all the cells, mucus is involved in that, and it kind of keeps the pathways open. So yours would be like water, nice, smooth. Imagine water in a glass. You swirl it around, it moves very freely. Mine and people with cystic fibrosis would be like replacing that water with like wallpaper paste or PVA glue. It's going to move, but it's a lot more difficult. And then that basically affects, as I said, nearly every process within the body. It makes everything much more difficult. But the main one it affects is the lungs. So the lungs, obviously, for instance, if you get a chest infection, the bug that gets into your chest, because of the viscous nature of the mucus within your body, clears out easily. However, the mucus in our bodies, the bug stays in there and thrives in there and then destroys the lung tissue.
I imagine with the coronavirus situation at the moment, then you'd be considered very high risk.
Yeah, I'm on that high risk. In fact, when I heard the repercussions or the what's the word I'm looking for? Symptoms of the coronavirus, I was just like, oh, that sounds a lot like someone like later on in stages of cystic fibrosis, not being able to breathe. So I'm on that high risk at the moment, but. Yeah, CF is the kind of driving force behind everything I do. I would say upon reflecting, it always has been. It's always given me that kind of that push, that fire, that never want to give up attitude that I had. It's always wanting me to prove myself and prove it to others that I'm not weak and that I can do everything they can do, and sometimes better than what they can do, because I have this innate weakness. I'm air quoting on a podcast. I always do that. But, I have this weakness that should be, causing X, Y, and Z, and I'm just like, no, let's see what I'm capable of and see what my X, Y, and Z are. With some hard work and some intelligence and more hard work.
What was the big pivoting point from when you were obviously in the film industry at Game of Thrones that then made you realise you needed to make a change? Because a lot of people, that must be a dream career if you're in the film industry and you get an opportunity like that. Obviously, it wasn't as big at the time, but
Yeah, it's, you know what, the film industry is not as glamorous as, just like the fitness industry as well. It's not as glamorous as people sometimes make it out to be. You know, you get to meet all the actors, you get to meet all the stars and stuff, but you're standing around doing nothing for long periods of time, and you have to hear the same lines over and over and over again. So if you like films, don't get into the film industry because it ruins them, because you hear the same line of dialogue over and over and over again. You're just like, it doesn't even sound like words anymore. Um, but it was chatting to you. It was funny because I did an article for the Irish News the other day, and I kind of went into it in a bit more detail. And it was essentially Jason Momoa's fault in a weird kind of, coincidence. But we're shooting a scene, and Jason's lines were all in Dothraki, which is not English, and he was struggling, and he wanted to get it right because this was like his big, career jump. And he, without, fair play to him, looking back on it now, I'd be like, I want to do the same thing. He was trying to just get it right, so he kept doing it over and over again, and that made the day a lot longer. And then that subsequently made me have a chat to one of the extras who was a PT. I was like, what do you do? Like, how do you have this time off, and how are you in such good shape? And he told me about becoming a personal trainer, and I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. You get to help people train. I would get to train, and I was noticing my health was suffering. My mental health was suffering. I couldn't eat what I wanted when I wanted. I couldn't train when I wanted. I couldn't sleep because I was up at like 4:30 in the morning, and then not getting home until 10 o'clock at night, and I was freezing all day. Yeah, it just wasn't a career for me.
That's fair enough. I mean, it's one of those things. If you know enough is enough, it takes a lot of courage to take action to necessarily change that situation. Because I think a lot of people go through life just making do, and like life shouldn't be about making do and just settling for a second best. You've got to go out and chase whatever your purpose is and what makes you happy and fulfills you, which obviously clearly for you is fitness and helping people.
Yeah, and that was scary. I remember telling my parents, at the time I was only 20 maybe.
Yeah.
And I was still living with my parents, and I pursued this career for 4 years. And your parents are like, they just want you to
protect you.
Do the best. Yeah, and especially with my CF as well. My parents are not a lot more protective, but just a little bit. And I remember telling them, like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And they're like, what? Like, why are you getting such good jobs? Like, you're getting in these big productions, blah 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 blah. And I was like, well, I just don't enjoy it anymore. And I didn't tell them it was because of my health, because I didn't want them to worry, but I just said, no, I just don't enjoy it anymore. And that's the truth. I didn't enjoy it anymore because of that. In my head, I was like, how long can I do this for? What happens if I get sick? Does that mean they're going to pass me up on a job because someone else can do it? So yeah, there's a lot of factors that came into it, but it wasn't an easy decision by any stretch of the imagination. Completely retraining after doing what I thought I'd wanted to do since I was 13.
Do you have any advice for someone who's going through that situation? Because obviously the world's a little bit upside down in some respects at the moment. So there's a lot of people going through like pivotal life changes. And I think a lot of people should see this maybe as an opportunity to actually go and pursue what they want to do rather than settling, as we've already said. Do you have any advice for anyone who's sort of sitting on the fence with what to do?
Yeah, I always say this, like, you get one go round.
I love that.
Like you do, like, life is, you can live life and just and kind of just live it and kind of please other people, and that's it. You crossed off the list at the end of the day. But that's always been in my mind. You get one go round, and just looking back in the last decade, how quickly that went past. Like, I still remember turning 20 like it was yesterday. I'm like, damn, that time went quick, and time only speeds up. It doesn't slow down.
I 100% agree with you that.
Like, so, you do get one go round, and if you muck up a few things, it's fine. Like, if you just keep getting up and you surround yourself with the right people who are going to help you get up when you don't want to, try the things that you maybe you're scared of doing, because you never know, like, what is going to be behind that kind of veil of fear. Because I thought, yep, this is me. My career is going to be in the film industry. I'll work my way up. And then suddenly I was like, oh, crap, I can't do this. And it wasn't because someone else was telling me to stop this. It was me. It was the conversation I had with myself that was like, okay, let's play this out. What would happen if you know, these things that I'm pretty sure are going to happen. You know, me getting sick, me getting looked over on jobs because I'm too sick to work them. Where am I going to end up? I was like, okay, so what do I actually enjoy, and what could I see myself doing for a long time? But not only a long time, but, you know, a good time, because, as I said, like, you do only get one go round on this thing, and you may as well do the stuff that you enjoy. And even if people are like, why the hell are you doing that? Screw 'em. You know, the opinions of other people are only as grand as you make them to be. And they only affect you if you allow them.
100% agree with that. And something I've talked about a lot is when I first started doing what I do now, like, I got a lot of flack and resistance initially from people being like, why is Charlie doing this? Why is he posting photos of himself on the internet? Who does he think he is? He's married, he should be doing these things. And I imagine you've probably had some of these similar conversations yourself. And if I had let those people affect me, I wouldn't now have the opportunity to do what I do and, like, transform thousands of lives. I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. Like, and that would have literally led me to not leading the life that I want of happiness and fulfillment because of other people's narrow-mindedness and opinions. Did you experience much of that?
A little bit. I mean, you'll always, if you look for it, you'll find it.
Yeah.
If you look for those, you know, I had it literally, I don't get much hate. Again, American wording. I don't get much of that. Don't know why, but I don't really get, you know, a huge amount of, you know, negative energy directed towards me. But in the last couple of days, I have, because of some, you know, people bringing their emotions into something that I've said, you know, which they obviously, that's the thing. People will always bring their own emotions to a statement and give it life that it didn't
what
actually
have.
have.
If you don't mind me asking.
So I basically said that CF is like fire, and obviously fire can be an extremely destructive force, but it can also be used as a source of motivation and energy. And how you perceive that fire is ultimately what's going to, you know, determine the outcome of your life. Now, a lot of people, now that was a very general statement. I've always said, you know, there's certain things you can control. There's certain variables you can control in life, and then there's others that you just can't. Cystic fibrosis is one that you can, just like everything, you can only control the things that you can control. So that's the things you put in your mouth. That's the things you do in terms of everyday, you know, habits, whether positive or negative. They're taking your treatments and they're getting the right amount of recovery. Those are the things that you can control. I don't care what other people say, like, oh, you can't control what you put in your mouth if you're, you know, this is one of the arguments that's brought to me. If you're in poverty. Yeah, but if you're in poverty, you're not going to be reading my Instagram, are you?
Like, very good answer. Touche, my friend.
You know what I mean? Like,
if you've got other priorities at the time, then yeah.
Yeah, if you're in priority, get off Instagram and, you know, try and do what you can. Again, control the variables that you can control. But anyway, I got a bit of a backlash on that. Bear in mind that this was an excerpt from, it was from the Insider, this one, and it was the article was the top 10 influencers who are open about their conditions, and I was listed among, yeah, like I was listed among some incredible people. But unfortunately, people, again, within the CF community took that to be me saying that you can completely control cystic fibrosis if you train like me and you eat like me. And I was like, I'd never said that.
It's taken out of context.
Yeah, it was a 60-minute chat where I said, you know, there's a huge spectrum of cystic fibrosis. Like there's a huge spectrum of normal people. You know, the example I always use is, like, I guarantee you know someone who is always sick. They've always got a cold. They've always got the thing that's going around. They just get it every time. That's the same with cystic fibrosis. Just your genetics will massively play a part in it because it's a genetic illness. But the thing that people attack me on was saying, like, oh, you're generalizing and you're not portraying the correct image of cystic fibrosis. You're just lucky. And I was like, I basically bid on that, which I shouldn't have, but I did, because I got annoyed and was just like, everyone's putting everything I put, you know, all my hard work, everything, all the results I get down to luck, which is essentially magic.
That for me is probably the most, I'll be the same thing that triggers me more than anything when anyone says to you, you're lucky. And like, the people who say that are always very respectfully naive and fairly and ignorant. And in reality, like, there's a saying I love, and that's, you make your own luck. Like, people don't see, like, for example, last 2 weeks I've been up at 5 o'clock in the morning, start doing work, and I work at home. Like, people don't see the reality of that. They might just see you and me dancing around on Instagram with our top off, but they don't actually, and think we just work out and take photos. They don't see what actually else we do to help people and the reality of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And, you know, you don't document every single workout. You don't document every single meal. You don't document every single conversation that you had in your head because you couldn't. And, you know, that's the thing everyone's skipping out on. And I genuinely don't believe, the only thing I think I've been, air quotes, lucky in getting is being born in the country I was born in, with the healthcare system we have when it comes to cystic fibrosis. That's one thing. That's one variable I have zero control over. And then the other thing I would say I've been lucky for was the fact that I got my parents as my parents. I didn't get to choose that. I didn't get to choose how my parents treated me growing up and how they adapted and responded to my cystic fibrosis. I have zero control over that. So those are the two aspects of my life where I've been like, okay, that was just, air quotes, luck. You know, I don't know the odds of being born in this country and all those things, but, you know, those are the things I have no control over. So yeah, I bet on that, and I had some discussions with people. And the unfortunate thing is people with cystic fibrosis as well, who were kind of having issues with my statement.
But like, and again, this is with all respect to those individuals, I'm sure you would agree that people like that only tend to lash out because of their own insecurities and they're unhappy with where they're at. And they're actually, instead of actually like, they're actually reaching out for help in reality rather than like lashing out, but it's just come across the wrong way in terms of how they've communicated it.
Yeah. And I always try to be calm, and I know that, because whilst I would love to just say, go yourself, I don't, because I know that, you know, for instance, I put myself in their shoes and I'm like, okay, if I read something online that I strongly disagree with, I will ignore it. I'll be like, whatever. Yeah. Fine. Cool. The amount of emotions I would need to be taking to something to actually act upon it and attack that person, I would need to be in a very vulnerable and very emotionally driven state to do that. So that's what I always think. I was like, this person is not just throwing hate for the fact, you know, that they want to. They're in a position where I've clearly upset them to a pretty powerful degree. So yeah, I always kind of have to take that into context and make sure I respond appropriately, which is difficult.
Yeah, sometimes just learning to bite your tongue and learning. It's one of these things that you're a very grounded, intelligent guy. You know as well. That's that saying. If there's nothing positive to say, then just say nothing at all. So I just leave stuff like that. Now, coming back a little bit back to yourself, Ben, in your own sort of training around cystic fibrosis, did you have anything you found challenging initially in terms of overcoming that, from any aspects from nutrition to training, or anything you really struggled with, or anything you've learnt massively in your last 10 years as a PT?
A lot there, yeah. So this is I get this question all the time. You know, is there anything you struggle with, or, you know, what's it like training with CF? And the honest answer is, and it sounds boring, but I don't know what it's like to not have CF.
It's just normality.
So yeah, you know, the thing I always say to someone, like, you know, whenever I get asked that question or something similar to it, I'm like, well, do you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's it like being an only child?
Yeah.
You can't relate to it because you have no. Yeah, and it's, you know, it's a great question because it kind of, it puts that into perspective, that you only know what you know, and that's relatable to everybody. You know, it's you can only speak from your own experiences, and that's all I can speak to. And obviously, there were some limitations that people perceived that I had, that I would then try my best to break. You know, so I started going to the gym with my friends. I started going to the gym whenever my dad bought me and my brother a multi-gym kit, but I started then training with my friends in the university. And at no point did I feel like I was weaker than them, you know, less than them, less fit than them, because I did everything they did. You know, I might not have been as big as them because I really struggled to put on weight because, again, with issues with cystic fibrosis. And then on top of that, my genetics. Both my parents are quite lean, so that plays into it as well. But I never felt like I was lesser than them, or, you know, I struggled more than them. I saw them struggle. I struggled. Some of them were stronger than me. Some of them weren't as strong as me. You know, kind of things like that. But in terms of what I learned about cystic fibrosis is the importance of recovery. And again, I think that's a hugely understated section of the fitness industry that's not really talked about. Everyone talks about the training and the nutrition But I think the third kind of pillar, as it were, is recovery, because as you're clearly an intelligent guy, you know what you're talking about. Like, you can only train as hard as you can recover from that training, and you can only progress if you're recovering sufficiently from the amount of stress that you're placing upon your body from training. And me growing up, I sleep a lot, and I always have. And I put it down to not laziness, because I used to think, oh, I'm just lazy, and that's the kind of mindset that was kind of pushed into me, unfortunately, by my parents, because my dad was in the military, my mum was a nurse. They're used to getting up with the crack on. Yeah, and it made me feel guilty for sleeping as much as I did. But I then realized, I was like, oh, okay, I connected my health to my ability to sleep and recover. And I was like, okay, so I'm maybe going to have to sleep a little bit more than the average person in order for me to do what the average person does every day. Or, I say average, I wouldn't classify myself as an average person in terms of the workload I do in terms of the gym. But that's the one thing I learned from having CF, okay, I have to be a little bit more careful with how hard I push myself. But then in the same thing, I need to recover as equally as hard as I push myself, which I do. I push myself pretty hard.
100%. And I think that's, again, and I think a lot of people who tend to be slightly newer to training tend to really overlook that. And I give the analogy of like digging a hole. So basically, when you're training, you're almost like digging a hole, and the recovery is filling it in. And you have to be able to fill the hole back in by the time you come to train again. And most people haven't even scratched the surface of getting near filling the hole in. They're trying to go again. When in reality, all they're going to do is just completely burn themselves out and go absolutely nowhere, which then comes back to like training smart. You can actually do less more effectively and get better results and feel better.
Yeah, that's a huge thing I've learned, is it's always, for the gym, it's always quality over quantity. And that's something I learned. Like, my sessions used to last for like 2 hours. And I was just like, and then you know what it was? It was actually, I say it was my CF. It was getting a dog. It was getting my puppy, Ollie, and he's like the greatest thing in the world to me, other than my wife, of course. I have to say that.
Yeah, you got
yeah. I was like, but it was upon getting him that I realized I can't really train for like 2 hours. This is when I was PTing in the gym, and we got the dog on the fact that my wife was working full time at the time, and I was in the gym, and I was like, oh, I can just I can just pop home and take him out for a walk and hang out with him for a bit, and then go back to work again. And then I realized, well, if I'm working with 5 clients in a row, then I'm training for 2 hours. That's 7 hours by himself. That's not fair. So I learned how to shorten and adapt my training. And then I started realizing, oh, I'm actually making the exact same progress with a much smaller amount of, again, workload. So yeah, that's kind of what changed it. And then I have not looked back since then. Like, I hate being in the gym for more than an hour and a half. Like, I'd rather just get in, get what I need to get done, and then get out again.
I'm very much the same with that. And that's where my mentality has probably changed a lot that recently. Where, like, we're talking about recovery, I was struggling to recover a lot earlier in the year because my travel schedule was very hectic. I mean, I did like 14 flights in about 3 months. And I kept getting to the point where I was just getting really burnt out. So I had to take like 4 days off. And every time I took 4 days off, I'd look a million times better. My body feeling amazing. And I was like, this is probably a sign here that I probably need to cut back training. So now I do 1 day on, 1 day off. And I improve faster, I recover better, and it's a huge amount more time efficient. And I feel less stressed and anxiety because I'm not chasing myself as much.
Yeah. And I adapted a full body split.
Yeah.
Which is now a 5-day full body split, which sounds ridiculous. In the principle, like, the full body should be something that you take, it should be a day on, day off, day on, day off. But the volume that I'm hitting each muscle group at is not anything like what you would hit if you were doing a back day or a chest day or a leg day. Yeah, and it's so intelligent, and the progress I've made from it has been incredible. And I love the sessions because there's some days that I like less than others, and there's some days that I can motivate myself better for others. Whereas for instance, a leg day, they are sometimes hard to motivate yourself to do. Like, they just are. Some days I absolutely love them, and I'm like, yep, cool, let's go do it. But others, you're just like, let's just do a bit of body or some back or chest or something, or some shoulders. Whereas this, I'm hitting legs 5 times a week, but only one set or maybe 2 sets per day. So it doesn't seem like an overwhelming feat of getting in to do legs, which it's nice. It kind of breaks it down for me. But I'm thoroughly enjoying that.
I tried a style of training for that for a little while, actually, through, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's actually been on a podcast as well. There's a guy called Scott Stevenson. So he does a training system he calls fortitude training, where you train everything 4 times a week. And it's like 2 days are like just muscle rounds. It's almost just like pump work, and you just do one exercise per body part. And the other two is like, one's like heavier upper body loading, and then lower, like lighter weight, higher reps on like lower body, and like alternating that. And that I find it's a really good strategy, and it's quite fun just doing more different exercises and more variety, rather than like, for me, I don't know if you're the same, Ben, I get bored when I do like, if someone puts 4 sets or something down in a workout, I'm bored after 2, like most of the time.
Same.
I'd rather kill myself for 2 and then do next. Like.
Yep. I most of my programming, I have like 3 sets for myself. I'll have 3 sets, and then depending on how much I'm enjoying the set, I'll maybe add in a 4th. And I'm like, I'll do it. I'm enjoying this. I'll do the extra set. But I do try to keep things varied, because as you know, like, the most important thing to any training plan is adherence. You need to enjoy it, and you need to be able to stick to it. Otherwise, it's pointless. It's like the first thing I teach all my clients. Like, if you can't stick to this, tell me straight away. Yeah, it's pointless.
And that comes down to as well, like, why I've never been a massive fan of like progressive overload training, purely of like people doing the same workout every week. I'd lose my marbles. The same with like powerlifting. Like, huge respect for people to do it, but like, I couldn't think of anything worse than just going in and doing like the same exercises every week. I get bored.
Yep. My gym that I go to is a big powerlifting gym, and again, respect for what they do. That's cool. They clearly enjoy it, and I'm never gonna say anything bad about you enjoying exercise. I will never critique anyone for doing any form of exercise, but it's not my cup of tea at all. Doing like 1 rep and being like, right, that's me done. I'm gonna sit around for 15 minutes and then do 2 reps of something, and I was just like, nah, I couldn't do that. It'd be a struggle for sure.
I get the impression, in terms of personality, you're probably quite similar to me, that I find I actually have to put a stopwatch down to slow myself down between sets, because I tend to go too fast.
Yeah.
So I want to go again in like 30 seconds. And I know, like, in reality, like, you need to leave it a little bit more than that, not rush the workout.
Systems. Yep.
Because I know it's a big drop off for me strength wise. If I add in like an extra 45 seconds rest, my strength is like a huge difference.
Yeah. That's something I learned as well. Like, I do all my planning through an app, which is what all my clients get, and I now purposely am like, right, I need to stick to these times, because you're just like me. I was just like, okay, I'm good, let's go. And then you realize, I actually probably wasn't ready to go. Like, the first 4 reps, you're like, easy, ATP system's kicking in, and you're just like, easy, and then you're like, oh,
there's failure.
Yeah, I was like, there we go. Should have rested a little bit longer. But I end up just like pacing around the gym. One of the big things I say, like, it's just something I've always done, is I try to not sit down when I'm in the gym.
Same.
Even if I'm on a lat pull down and I'm waiting for the next set, or I'm on a seated row or whatever, I'll like get up and move around, because you just that little bit extra, and that's one of those things. That's the thing that I think so many people overlook, and something that Adam and I talk about a lot on our podcast, is like, it's the simple things that are just so overlooked, because they're like, that couldn't work. Like that's too simple to work. It's like, yeah, but give it a go and you'll see. Like, it's ultimately the results of where you are today and where I am today is not from anything ridiculously grand, or it's not just like one thing we've done. It's all those little things that we've done that are, air quotes, boring and dull, just doing them over and over and over and over again until they compound to then give us the result that we get today, which is where we're at.
What's very interesting, what you said there, is that I do that all the time, and I don't even realize I do it. I just can't sit on the machine, so I'll get up and I'll just not dance around, but pace, because I just go and I just like feel like I want to be hyped up. So like, if I'm sitting there just waiting, I feel like my energy is just dropping off, and just enthusiasm, and it's just.
That's why sports.
Yeah, I used to play a lot of rugby and stuff like that. So
that's where it comes from.
Yeah,
I found that's the common theme. But I used to be able, when I used to do one-to-one PTing, I could tell who had a sporting background judging by their sets. what they did in between sets, because the people who had a sporting background, in between sets, they would stand up straight away and they just move around, or they just don't sit still. And I think that comes from the sporting background of whenever you're playing sports, if you're standing still doing nothing, your coach or someone will be like, move, respond to what's happening.
Yeah.
So that's anyway. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's my assessment from it anyway.
I imagine there's a lot of truth in that, to be fair. But I don't know how much difference it makes physiologically, but like from my point of view as well, I thought moving around actually would help anyway, because you're getting more blood flow moving.
Blood flow.
Like everything's just open. You can be able to breathe better if you're standing up than sitting down.
Exactly.
Logically, it makes complete sense. And it's, again, like I think a lot of the time, like logic tends to rule for most things when it comes to fitness. With nutritional training, like most of it's fairly obvious when you actually break things down.
Yeah, but I think that people look at it as, oh, that's way too obvious. That couldn't possibly get me where I want to go, because it's just, of course, that's the way it is. So the problem is that people always are looking for this magic formula, this magic pill. They think, okay, it's this one thing I haven't been doing that's going to get me to where I want to be. It's not all these kind of boring things that I already know. It's not putting those into practice, because that's just ridiculous, which is,
and it's those like
kind of laughable.
Those basic things that people overlook, like breathing, sleep, recovery, stress management, hydration. They're not the sexy, glamorous, like fat burner pre-workout everyone wants to go like spank all their money on, when in reality they just need something which is, as you said, like easy and enjoyable and simple to follow, and something they can execute well, because execution of a program is the key to success, not something that's overly complicated and glamorous. It's what you stick to and adhere to that you enjoy, which will define your results essentially.
I agree completely. That's the hardest thing about coaches who know what they're doing. It's hard to sell what we're doing, because it's not sexy, it's not marketable. It's just, okay, how do you get those results? Oh, I did this consistently for a long period of time. Oh, okay then. It's like, people ask me like, oh, how did you get in the shape you're in? I was like, well, I've been training for 14 years. Have barely missed a day. Are my sessions, do any of them stand out as being particularly incredible? No, they're just consistent. And it's just that consistency that's going to get you where you want to be. But people don't want to hear that. People want to hear like, how do I get to where you are in 12 weeks? You won't.
And it's that expression, like Rome wasn't built in a day. And so it's the same thing I try to explain to everyone is like, you have to go through phases of everything. So like this coronavirus crap at the moment is a phase of society, humanity, whatever you want to call it. And like this will pass, as will like the phase you're in at the moment with your own training and nutrition as a phase, and you move into the next phase. And then you just like build these wins consistently and stack them upon each other and then go from there. And I imagine it's the same with yourself, where obviously you became a PT, became successful with that. And with your own training and building your own physique, you just stack those wins on top of each other. And then it builds confidence and success.
Yeah, 100%. That's, again, I think I mentioned this the other day, like to get to where you need to be, like it is about those little mini wins and then taking time to appreciate them, because they do stack up. There's like building blocks, and it's hard to, people just see where you're at. They just see the top. They don't see all the little layers that got you to where, that put you at the top. For instance, the little things. I was saying this to one of my clients the other day. Someone said to her, she's a nurse actually, so shout out to her. She's a nurse out in America. She's helping people with corona and stuff. But one of the nurses who she hasn't worked with for a while, commented on how she looked strong, and that he wanted to arm wrestle her after. And I was like, it's little things like that.
What is it with Americans and arm wrestling as well? I don't understand that.
I know, yeah. It's no test of strength whatsoever. But yeah, I was like, it's little moments like that you need to like really celebrate. Yeah, and you're just like that, because it's little moments like that. It's like, I remember the first time, putting on a medium shirt instead of a small shirt. And I was just like, whoa, okay, this is cool. I don't have to show up serious. Yeah. And then now I'm like, okay, I can actually wear like, this is an XL shirt. And I'm just like, that still blows my mind. And I think you always need to, cast yourself back to where you used to be to then appreciate where you were, and that's something I'd say I've been very fortunate in being able to maintain all the time. Like I still walk past myself in the mirror and be like, whoa, the 15-year-old self can still see, still has the vision of myself. I look at myself and go, wow, like well done. Like, because I said this the other day as well, it feels like you can't congratulate yourself on hard work anymore because people say, oh, you're arrogant. It's like, yeah, it's like an artist standing back at the end of it, doing a masterpiece. Not that I'm saying my body's a masterpiece, but like, it's like an artist stepping back after working his ass off and being like, okay, I'm happy with this. No one's going to come along and be like, you arrogant prick. Like, come on. Like, they've seen the hard work that's gone into creating whatever, piece they've created, Sistine Chapel or something. I guarantee that whenever that was done, they stepped back and went, whoa, that is incredible. And the artist was Da Vinci, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Stepped back and went, yeah, this is quite good. No one went, shut up, you arrogant prick. Like, you can't say that. Like,
yeah, stop shutting off.
Yeah, it's like, it's ridiculous. But, I am proud of what I've done because I was there for the entire journey and I've seen what went into it. And I think people need to be able to be proud of what they've achieved, regardless of how small or big it is. I think we need to kind of take back that sense of pride that you should get from certain achievements.
100%. I think it's one of those things that people often don't celebrate enough anything, and that's why one of the things I've started doing recently is using a journal at the start of every day and at the end of every day, so I can tick off what I've done that day. Because, like, being open and honest, I tend to give myself a bit of a hard time about not progressing with stuff quickly enough. And then at the end of the day, I look and I'm like, shit, I've done all this stuff. And then you look back through the week and you're like, Jesus, I've actually done a huge amount. Whereas I feel like I haven't been that productive. So I think that's a very good thing for a lot of people, is maybe writing out like what you're going to do at the start of the day and what you've accomplished.
To-do list.
Yeah. My life is list.
Yep. Like, I have in my notes on my phone, start of every day or the end of each day, I'll write what I want to achieve at the end of the day. And it could be as simple as, do my training, do my cardio, do this podcast, things that are realistically easy ticks. But then you look back and you're like, okay, I just did all those consistent things, that I've been doing for so long, and it does really, really help.
In terms of, obviously you mentioned there in terms of your own training cardio at the moment, what are you doing in the current lockdown situation? I saw a very glamorous photo of you on the salt bike out in the sun.
Yeah. So I don't know. People are laughing and being like, did you like prophesize this? I was like, no, I did not. But I basically wanted to set up a home gym. I moved into this house with my wife November last year. And as soon as I saw the garage, I was like, that's a gym. Don't care what anyone else says, that's a gym. And that was the first thing I wanted to do. I was like, right, this is the first room that's going to get done. I'm going to get the rack in there. I'm going to get the barbell, going to get the assault bike, and hopefully some cables at some point. So luckily I have everything that I really need. Obviously you could always do something else, but I have all the tools that I need for my own training at the moment. So I've got the cables down there. I've got the rack. It's like 170 kilos in the bar, which is, more than enough for me at the moment. And then cardio, I'm just doing a bit of extra cardio because I'm not moving around as much. I try to take Ollie out, but my wife does that for me because of the whole, I shouldn't really be out. But the walks we go on, very open. If you see someone, you can see them from, 100 meters away. Yeah. You stay clear of them. But realistically, that's not every day. So I have to then keep my cardio up. So I'm doing, I think, what have I committed to doing? I think I'm doing about it works at about 140 kilometers on the bike a week. And I break that up however I want to, whether it's 10 on one day, 30 on the next. I accidentally did 30 on Saturday there, or Friday, whatever day it was, because I set it to 20 miles instead of 20 kilometers.
Jesus.
I was like halfway through, I was like, what the heck? Why is this taking so long? Like, what am I doing? And I looked down, I was like, that's a miles. And again,
how long did it take?
About 70 minutes. Yeah. So it was a very relaxed pace. This is not a, trying to bust my ass. It's just a nice, steady state, enjoyable, I'm sweating a lot by the end of it, but it's just it's kind of the supplement, like, or to kind of replace what I would be doing if I went for like a walk with Ollie. Yeah, that was nice. And I was like stubborn. I'm typically stubborn. I worked out how many, kilometers was in that 20 miles. I was like, okay, it's 32. And there is that little small part of my mind was like, okay, so how many miles would it be to equate to 20 kilometers? Shall I just stop there? And then the other part of me was like, don't be a bitch. Just get it done. Yeah, just get it done. Like, what else are you doing? You're sitting out in the sun, you can just chill on your phone and watch some videos, just relax and get it done. So it is. It was nice.
It's good. It's have you found that this situation led you to create any new habits on a daily basis or do anything differently? Like, as I said, like I find this is a great opportunity at the moment to try and do different things and develop slightly different habits. And like one of the things I mentioned earlier is I've been trying to get up much earlier in the morning to start work, to create more time for myself in the day, to have more time with my wife, less stress and anxiety and those sort of things. And I've also started a lot more cooking, which is fun. Have you had anything else that you've done, Ben?
The cardio is one, because I didn't typically do much, cardio, because my sessions, that you don't technically need cardio to get a good cardiovascular state, because if your training's at that intensity, you sit up after some sets, you're gassed. So that's what I heavily relied on. But my chest has been a little bit worse recently. So I was like, right, I'm going to have to step in and again, control the variables that I can control, which is doing cardio.
You find that cardio you do improves your chest situation?
Yeah, it forces me to breathe a little bit more deeply. It opens up airways, and it's massively beneficial.
You find it easy to breathe nasally? Nasally, I don't know that's right word.
Yeah, again, that's something I've been looking at and practicing. People don't realize how much goes into breathing. People just assume that breathing, you can just do it autonomously. It just happens and it's passive. However, you can that's what I find amazing about the breath. Like, it's both passive and completely controllable by you. It's like, you can let it happen. Cool. Happen all day. Whereas you can then focus in on it and be like, okay, how am I breathing? Where am I breathing from? Am I breathing through my chest or am I breathing through my diaphragm? Okay, so how much am I breathing through my diaphragm? Like, am I really getting the most amount out of it as I can? So I've done a lot of reading about breath work, but the cardio definitely helps that. And I try to kind of purse my lips and try to breathe through my nose, because it's much more difficult. Plus, breathing through my mouth too much irritates my airways at the top, then causes me to cough a lot more, which is obviously not what I want to do.
One of the interesting things I've been trying a bit of training recently is almost doing exercises with, like, because I did squats the other day and I didn't have a huge amount of weight available, so I ended up doing like slow eccentric and concentric reps with pause, and also just doing nasal breathing only. And it like instantly makes you so much more in tune with your body, and also makes the exercise so much more difficult because you're not breathing through your mouth. And it's definitely something I'd recommend for people to give a go, in particular for cardiovascular stuff. Works even better.
Definitely. The other thing I've done, and I have no problem saying this, is that I've been much more strict with my treatments. Treatments for me, again, growing up, I was fairly healthy with my CF, so I didn't have to do as much, nebulizer treatments or anything like that, or as much physio, because I was so physically active. And my lung functions were just such a high percentage that the doctors were like, it's fine. If you can get away with not having to do them, that's fine. But now, because of this, I'm now like carving that into my day, that I have to get them done every single day, which is, it's good, because it makes me not feel like a hypocrite whenever I'm telling people to do theirs.
What treatments are they exactly?
So nebulizers. So if anyone follows me on here, you'll occasionally see me putting up posts where I've got this like tube thing in my mouth. And that is essentially, so anyone who has asthma or ever has had an asthma, the little inhalers, it's basically a more powerful version of that. So the first, I take two nebulizers. I take the first one, which opens up all the airways. And then the second one, which is ridiculous, even when I talk about it, it essentially breaks down it goes into my lungs. It then has a reaction with the mucus, and it actually changes the mucus's DNA to make it a little bit more viscous. So it actually has a conversation with the DNA within the mucus to then make it be like, do you want to be a bit more viscous, mate? That'd be great, so we can clear you out. Yeah, that's exactly how I imagine it happening. So I take that every day, and then obviously whenever I try to do that before I do my cardio. So then when I do my cardio, anything that may be stuck in my chest then is cleared up. So yeah, being a lot more strict with that, which has been great.
100%. And that's again, that's probably a good habit. It'll probably stand you in good stead post Corona COVID-19 situation, which hopefully will be over the next 8 to 12 weeks or so.
Hopefully, yeah. And then the other thing that I'd say, I've it's not like particularly you know, business driven or anything like that, but I've been getting to speak to my friend more, who lives in Canada. He's like one of my best friends. So we've been just chilling out, playing the PlayStation together, and that's the only way we can really chat, because, you know, we don't want to sit on the phone with each other all day. And so, what are you doing? You know, like,
it's a very male thing, isn't it? I don't know if you're the same. I hate talking on the phone. I just feel,
yeah, especially when you're just catching up.
Yeah, it just feels like
it's just, whereas if you're sitting playing the PlayStation together, you know, you're doing something fun, you're still getting to catch up, you're finding out a bit more about their lives. And I, you know, a lot of people probably feel a lot of pressure to do a lot of productive things during this time. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. But if that is, you know, ultimately, as I said, you only get one turnaround in this life. And if that is me creating a better bond with one of my best friends, you know, I'm not going to fondly look back at reading a book. I'm going to fondly look back at, you know, speaking with my friend and having good times with him. So I think that's just as important for my mental health as well. So yeah, that's something that I've been doing a little bit more of.
100%. Would you say that's one of your big methods you've been using to try and help with this situation? Because I know, like, a lot of people are really struggling in terms of being isolated and maybe being anxious about, I don't know, finances, their fitness, relationships. Probably people are probably at each other a little bit at home sometimes if you're in a small house. I think a lot of people are probably struggling for that aspect. I think that probably you reaching out and like playing PlayStation, killing your mate on Call of Duty, whatever you're doing, probably really helps to like give you someone else to speak to. Because no matter how much you love your wife, like after 3 weeks of only talking to your wife, you're probably like, I could do this male like conversation here.
100%. And yeah, that, like, it's helping me, it's helping him. You know, it's then helping my wife because I'm, you know, not
Happy.
just talking to her. Yeah, and the other thing is that it's another experience, or it's something that she didn't see because she's here. Everything that I see, typically she sees, or, you know, there's nothing new to tell her about. Whereas that, you know, I could be like, oh yeah, Callum told me about this thing he did. He lives in Canada in the middle of nowhere.
Where in Canada is he? I actually nearly got stuck there during this situation. I had the world's shortest trip to Canada for 2 days and back.
I'm serious? He lives, like, I'm not joking, it's in, like, it's not near any of the major cities. He lives in a community.
Okay. So literally.
So there's, yeah, with all like native Canadians. But yeah, he sent me a picture of his dog, Odin, was just eating a moose's like shin. Somebody killed a moose.
How Canadian is that?
Yeah, it's hilarious. So, you know, stuff like that gives me something to talk to Janice about, you know, that she didn't know about, and, you know, so it's cool stuff like that. And but I think I've said this as well before, like, I've always been quite an open person when it comes to communication, because in my head, like, we as humans have this incredible gift that realistically no other species has, and that's the fact that the noises that are coming out of my mouth, you can understand and interpret. You know, obviously other creatures have the ability to communicate and all that stuff, but we have this unique ability, and to not use that ability to tell people your situation, whether good or bad, you're hamstringing yourself completely. It's like trying to write, you know, we've got, again, these incredible fingers that can do all these incredible things. It'd be like trying to write with a fist. It's stupid. Use the tools that you've got to the best of your abilities. So not speaking to people, not chatting to them, not, you know, getting out what you feel, to me is such a waste of that gift that we've been given. So I've always been, you know, if I'm feeling something, I'll tell someone, you know, and the thing I found is that realistically you're not alone with those emotions, you know, and then they'll resonate and they'll be like, oh, I don't feel as alone anymore. And yeah, so I would highly advise reaching out to people and finding ways that you communicate that, you know, aren't awkward, especially if you're a bloke.
I think one of the interesting things, like I do some of the clients we work with, we've now increased, is like doing group video calls. So do that twice a week, just because like people are feeling more lonely than ever. So it's really nice just to, like, even though a lot of these calls aren't even really fitness related, we're just chatting about like new habits we're having every week, what books people have read, what recipes people have tried, just to like create more human communication. Because unfortunately, one of the big things that's going to suffer from this situation at the moment is human interaction is at an all-time low, like face to face. And although obviously it's not in person, it's better than nothing. And like even like this conversation here, I've really enjoyed like male conversation again with someone else, because as he said, like, as much as I love my wife, when you're with them 24/7 for like 3 weeks, it's nice to talk to a guy about different stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that I've done as well, like having more group calls with my clients. Just literally, most of them are, I try to base it around some question. But then last week it was just like, right, ask me whatever you want. Let's just catch up and see how everyone's doing. And I always say like, if people are in a rush or anything, or people don't want to commit like an hour to this call, we'll make it half an hour. It always ends up an hour. And, everyone at the end is like, they can easily chat for another, an hour and a half. But that's been cool. I've been enjoying that for sure. And I'm gonna maintain that, because I look forward to seeing everybody interacting with each other. And I think the stronger the communication and the links you can create within the tribe that you have, the better. And even just in the group that, I have a Facebook group for all my clients, even the communication between them all now is far stronger than it was before we started doing those calls.
But don't you think that's nice? Because it's the same thing. Like what I almost take huge pride from, and I find is amazing, is when you see people become, like, other clients become friends with each other through you, and then they support each other. And then it's not just you they're looking for accountability and support, it's they're looking to each other and they're holding each other accountable, which again just like adds another layer to guarantee them getting results.
Yeah, the thing I always say is like, it's harder to fall when you've got people either side of you.
Yeah, 100%. To start to wrap things up, Ben, obviously we're during this situation at the moment. Do you have any goals or aspirations or anything you're trying to get finished with this period, like fitness or business related, or anything in particular?
None that have changed.
Yeah.
They've all remained consistent. As I said, I don't know if we said this before we started recording or not, but like my life hasn't really changed that much, thankfully.
Other than those cinema trips.
Yeah, I mean, I'm missing those nachos and hot nuts. But everything's remained the same. I still want to be the best coach I can be. I still want to impact as many people's lives with CF and without CF as I can. I just want to help people, and not only that, but benefit from helping people, because I think a lot of coaches, you say that and then you're like, I don't know if you're the same, but there's that weird attachment for being a PT that you should feel bad about taking people's money for help. And that's something I've always struggled with, because I'm like, especially working within the CF community, I'm like, am I supposed to give away this information for free? How should I treat this? And, should I feel guilty for asking for money for my help? I was like, well, no. And that's something that I've, I think I'll always struggle with. But now I realize, you know what? I spend all this time learning all the stuff I've learned. I spend all this time practicing what I'm preaching, because I think that's so important. And clearly you do too. So why should I feel bad about, asking for a financial investment in me as a coach? So I'm just basically doing all I can to ensure that I have no doubts in my head that their investment is worth it. And that's kind of always been the way I've treated it.
It's one of those things, like I felt very much the same, but I know you're the same as me. Like, I give away so much free information and knowledge that to the point where I almost can't give much more away, so that if people are basically paying for my time to work for me directly, not more bespoke stuff, because in reality, like, the general information like yourself and you give away is superb. However, like, everything needs to be specified to the individual, because like you and me are both very different, and everyone's different as an individual. So that's really the key here, is like breaking things down specifically. Yeah.
So most advice fits everybody, but it's not designed for anybody. That's what I've always said about gym equipment as well. It's built for everybody, but nobody.
Yeah, 100%. It's you have to adapt training principles, nutrition, training equipment to the body and biomechanics and systems you have that you're genetically given. To wrap things up, Ben, what's the best way for everyone to get in touch with you?
Either email me at ben@benmudge.com. I've also got a Cystic Fibrosis website, which is specifically designed for people who have CF, who just want to educate themselves and get the best start in life if they're a parent with a child with CF, or just learn as much as you can from me. So that's cfstrength.com. And then on Instagram, I'm at benmudge_, because someone has still got benmudge.
Bastard.
Hasn't used the account in like 5 years, but well.
It's really fun. So thank you so much for that, Ben. I hope everyone's absolutely enjoyed and loved this episode. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable conversation, and also some male interaction, which I haven't had much of recently. If you guys enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star review on the podcast. I will be picking one person at random to win a free place on the next Shreddinate Sculptinate program that starts 27th of April, which is a home workout program. If you want to buy a place, it's currently at 70% off at #StayAtHome special as well, at just £37 a month. So thank you so much, Ben. Absolute pleasure, and hopefully catch up soon.
Yes, mate. Appreciate it.